As the U.S. continues to increase crude oil production by focusing their drilling efforts on high-yield, unconventional tight sands, the amount of raw associated gas also continues to grow. Historically, associated gas only represented a small portion of total U.S. natural gas supply. However, as crude oil production has increased, associated gas now accounts for about 23% of the total amount of raw gas in the U.S., which was 125 billion cubic feet per day, or BCFD, in 2023. Incorrys expects the amount of associated gas to continue to grow well into the next decade. To start, what is raw associated gas? Well, quite simply, it is a raw natural gas that is produced from wells that are targeting crude oil, primarily in tight sands. Since it is typically separated right at the wellhead, it is considered to be raw gas, as it will have to go through various processes to make it marketable, by removing impurities and other hydrocarbons like ethane, propane, and butane. Also, since associated gas is a byproduct of oil production, it is a very low-cost gas compared to gas coming from wells purposely drilled for natural gas. Incorrys analyzed and forecast associated gas production primarily from tight oil basins, which represent about 67% of the total oil and least condensate production. Further, different basins have different gas-to-oil ratios, that is, the amount of gas produced per barrel of oil. For example, the largest oil-producing region, Permian, has one of the highest gas-oil ratios, which leads to significant growth in the production of associated gas. U.S. associated gas production in select basins grew over 25% annually from just 1.5 billion cubic feet a day in 2010 to 28 billion cubic feet per day in 2023, primarily driven by the increase in the gas-oil ratios within tight oil basins, coupled with growing oil production. In 2023, the Permian Basin, located in West Texas and southeast New Mexico, was the largest producer of associated gas, accounting for 2/3 of the total, or 18 BCF per day. The Williston, located in North Dakota and Montana, was the second largest contributor at 3 BCF per day, about 12%. The added benefit of associated gas from Permian is it can be liquefied and exported. As you can see, almost all US LNG export terminals are located on the Gulf of Mexico, close to the Permian Basin. The initial low cost of associated gas, coupled with low transportation costs, makes LNG export from the US very economical. Incorrys is forecasting US associated gas production to continue to grow well into the next decade, peaking at almost 38 BCF per day between 2031 and 2037, up 33% from 2023. Again, much of the forecast growth is driven by the Permian Basin, which reaches about 29 BCF per day at its peak, almost 80% of the total U.S. associated gas production. The Williston remains the second largest producer, reaching almost 4 BCF per day by the middle of the 2030s, about 10% of the total. Over time, associated gas production actually grows at a faster pace than the corresponding oil production. This is because, in general, future tight oil production will come from more gassy areas within the basin. Associated gas in the U.S. has become a major contributor to the overall U.S. gas market in meeting growing demand, which is being driven by the phase-out of coal-fired power generation and rapidly expanding LNG export market. Depending on the longer-term global demand for oil, Incorrys does see potential upside to the associated gas forecast, which will further support both the domestic and international gas markets.